Hi everybody, Britt Davenport coming to you from Lewiston, Idaho. Today we're going to be tying a copper john variation. This variation I've been using for bluegill, crappie, even a few stalker trout here in our local lakes and reservoirs. I've been having real good luck on it this year. The original pattern, the original copper john, works just as well. The panfish luckily aren't too terribly picky, but they do sure seem to like the chartreuse colors that we're going to be using in this fly. So to get started, we're going to be tying on a Firehole 633 size 14. I have mounted that in my vise with the standard shank or standard jaws. I've added a 3mm silver bead. Before we dress our hook shank, we're going to add a few wraps of lead wire just to seat that bead in place. To do that, I'm going to start the wire through the eye of the hook, jump it back over top that bead and make a half wrap, and from there we can use our vise to lay the additional wraps down. We'll break that off with our thumb. Go ahead and take your bodkin, pull that out of the eye of the hook. There we go. And then we can go ahead and just break that off with our thumbnail. And for this, I'm just using 0.015 lead wire. Nothing too big. If you're tying a bigger size, you can certainly bump that up a little bit and it would be just fine. Next up, I'm using UTC 140 in Chartreuse or Fluorescent Green for the thread. So we're going to get that started on the hook shank. And now for any copper johns, the real key to having them look nice is getting a really smooth underbody. That's going to allow your wire to wrap nicely and have that beautiful taper that we see. So that's looking pretty good. See, I'm building in a little bit of a taper already. And I'm going to dress the hook just back to about where the barb would be. The Fireholes are a barbless hook, but if it did have a barb, that's as far back as I want to go. For the legs on this variation, I'm going to be using, or for the tail, excuse me, I'm going to be using Fluorescent Chartreuse Sili legs. For that, I take just a single piece and cut it into two smaller segments. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. About 1 inch long is about all you need. The first piece I'm going to, rather than setting it on top and wrapping over it, I'm going to bring it underneath the hook shank and underneath that thread and then bring it up and over. So that saves us one wrap of thread, which in a pattern like this isn't huge, but every wrap helps. On the far side, I'm going to do the same thing, only not bring it up over the top. I'm just going to lay it right on the side there. And then do a couple securing wraps. You want to make sure these are wrapped down all the way to the back where you started. And then we're just going to take them and wrap all the way up until right where that lead wire ends. Go ahead and snip those off. We're going to trim the tail about the same length as the hook shank. And then go ahead and continue to lay a nice body down. Try to get it as smooth as you can, because that's really going to determine how well your wire wraps lay. So for the wire body, I'm going to be using small Chartreuse UTC ultra wire. Typically you would use brassie size, but I don't have any in that size. So what I've done is I've taken a play from Tom Weir's book and taken 2 pieces and spun them together on my Norvise prior to making this video, and it makes it just a little bit thicker having the 2 spun together, and I really like the looks of it. So I'm going to tie this in and bring it all the way to the back of the hook, and then bring our thread back up front. Let's throw a half hitch in there just to save our work. Now we're going to start wrapping that wire. And so we're going to just take touching wraps. The wire does have a little bit of a mind of its own, so you kind of have to just work with it. Sometimes it lays down really nice, sometimes it just wants to fight you the whole way. So try to just get touching wraps all the way up. I'm going to go clear up into that abdomen, or thorax, excuse me. And go ahead and secure that down. And then we can go ahead and helicopter that off. A little bit more. For a wing case, we're going to be using a piece of large mylar. So we're going to go ahead and tie that in on the top of the hook shank. And then we're also using a piece of Swiss straw. So I took a chunk of Swiss straw and then cut it in half because it's too large otherwise. You can also use scud back, thin skin. There's a whole host of items you could use. It's just your preference. Now for the thorax, we are going to use a material by Semperfli called straggle string. I've got this, it's just a card that has various colors on it. They make just a whole host of different colors, naturals, fluorescents, just a ton. These are sample cards, so it just has a little bit of each color to try it out. They do come on actual regular spools. So I'm going to take that and tie that in. Go ahead and throw a half hitch in just to save our work. Do one of Tim's half hitches. There we go. And then we're simply going to wrap this, and this is going to be our leg material and our thorax. So we're not going to be putting anything else on for legs. Nope. And then you have that happen. So go ahead and wrap that back up. There we go. Go ahead and secure that off. I like to try to pull those back away from that bead and do another wrap or two. Next up, we'll pull our wing case up. We'll do first the Swiss straw and then the mylar. I'll do a couple wraps over those to secure. Go couple in front. Go ahead and trim those out. And then I'll just put a couple turn whip finish on there to make a little bit of a hot spot behind that bead. Trim your thread. And now on the wing case, we're going to just put a dab of UV resin. Hit that with your UV light. And there we have it. A copper john variation. Bluegill panfish, just in general, really seem to love it, and even picked up a couple stalker trout here in the lakes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you later. Bye.